Welcome to the Food on Demand podcast, where we dish up insights on the future of restaurants relating to off-premises operations and the overall digital dining experience, as well as explore how this dynamic industry is reshaping the way we eat. I'm Bernadette Heyer, Managing Editor.
And I'm Adam Wahlberg, Associate Editor. Food on Demand is your exclusive media source here to help restaurant operators meet the digital guest where they are. We also host the annual Food on Demand conference, so mark your calendars for May 5th through 7th at the Bellagio in Las Vegas. You won't want to miss it.
Yes, and be sure to check out our Off-Premises University webinar series that's going on right now, and subscribe to our weekly newsletter. But also for our listeners out there, we are excited to announce that we've added video to the podcast, so you can also watch along for your enjoyment. Now, before I dive into our guest interview today with Geoff Alexander, CEO of Wow Bao, it's time for our Quick Bite segment, where Adam and I share what's been sizzling in our kitchens lately. So, Adam, take it away.
Bernadette, thank you. I recently wrote a piece on the results of a survey conducted by InTouch Insight into the performance of third-party delivery providers. To conduct the survey, it placed 200 orders through each provider from mystery shops throughout the country and made assessments on speed, order accuracy, and customer satisfaction. The results were quite revealing. The average delivery time for DoorDash was 26 minutes, while Grubhub was 35 minutes and Uber Eats was 38 minutes. They also found that customer satisfaction dipped between 1:31 and 4 p.m. and suggested a correlation to when a restaurant tends to have a slow time and maybe they've cut back on staffer hours and getting food ready for the delivery drivers and out the door maybe bogs down a bit. Another thing that jumped out to me is that the average delivery fee is $5.96, which is actually down 15% from a couple years ago. This was the first survey of this kind conducted by InTouch Insight. They do all kinds of interesting surveys, but never anything this comprehensive to this specific industry. And I hope they do it again because I found the results super interesting, and I bet the providers did as well. And whatever helps the providers see their performance clearly so they can make improvements, that's just got to be a win for them and for the industry. So I hope to see it again next year. The results were actually really, really fun to read. Back to you, Bernadette.
Yeah, well, thank you, Adam. It's always interesting to see what's happening with the big three, and understanding their strengths or weaknesses and so forth. And my quick bite today is all about drones. So I recently did a deep dive into the state of drone delivery for restaurants and where that's at today. And so back in July, the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, has now released some new regulations that allow commercial drones to fly, and Dallas is where this is kicking off, without the need for someone on the ground to actually watch them. And that's a first for the US. So some major drone companies were a part of that. This includes Zipline and Wing. And now they can deliver their packages kind of simultaneously over each other using some fancy technology, which is a little confusing for me, to share their flight paths safely. So this is a big step. These companies continue to make moves in the restaurant delivery space. And, as we mentioned, it's a viable option for not only quicker delivery, but it can help solve the whole quality issue that happens as well. But now that regulations are clear, the next step really is to figure out the best operating models that work for not only the restaurant, but for the drone. And that's going to look different at any restaurant. For example, Wing has a system where restaurant employees walk out and load the drone themselves in an auto loader, which is about the size of a parking spot. However, Wing just released a partnership with Serve Robotics, and now Serve's sidewalk robotic delivery bots are now working together to be able to deliver the meal to the drone loader on behalf without any humans involved. So drone to robot now, or robot to drone, kind of crazy. But that's just one of the few models out there. And I can definitely see a future where maybe these drone loading ports are built into new restaurants. So that's all something that we'll keep a close eye on. But in general, these regulations certainly mean that we'll be seeing more sky high deliveries continue to happen.
Yeah, it's amazing technology, robot to drones. Food is delivered in such futuristic ways, and the future is now. So it's fun for us to cover.
That's right. Future is now. All right, Adam. Well, thank you. We are now going to get into our interview with Geoff Alexander.
Thank you. Have fun.
Okay, so now it is time for our interview with our guest, Geoff Alexander. As mentioned, he is the CEO of the very innovative brand Wow Bao and a good friend of Food on Demand. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. It's always so fun to catch up with Wow Bao and what you guys are doing. It's probably one of the most innovative brands I interview. You guys just have your toes dipped in so many different aspects. So excited to dive into some of those today. But to start, Geoff, for anyone out there who's never heard of Wow Bao or isn't familiar, can you kind of give me an overview of the brand?
Sure, we're a quick serve, fast casual Asian brand. We focus on doing steamed Asian buns, pot stickers, rice bowls. We started in 2003, born out of Lettuce Entertain You Enterprises in Chicago. Over the past 21 years, we've done sports stadiums, college campuses, airports, virtual dining locations, delivery-only kitchens, hot food vending machines. In 2017, private equity got involved to help fund our growth. And lately, we've been doing a lot in the grocery store business and consumer packaged goods. In 2023, we had 350 grocery stores at the beginning of the year, and we'll end 2024 with about 10,000 locations.
Wow, yeah, lots going on for sure. And Geoff, I'd also like for you to give us a bit of background on yourself and what led you to your role at Wow Bao.
Sure. I was managing a restaurant bar in college, University of Wisconsin-Madison in the early 90s. Graduated from there, moved to Chicago and joined Lettuce right out of college. Worked on a number of different brands during my tenure there, opened a whole bunch of different restaurants. And then in 2003, Wow Bao was launched. I took it over in '09. It was in between partners and have been running the brand since then.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so you mentioned a bunch of different aspects that Wow Bao is involved with. And one of the things is I know your dark kitchens and your virtual brands. I'm kind of curious on hearing from your perspective, where that state of the industry is with virtual brands and why is it working so well for Wow Bao?
So we had the idea in 2019 in a conversation I was having with my private equity partnership that they had a number of restaurants that was in their portfolio, as well as Lettuce Entertain You had a number of brands. And we had this aha moment. Why couldn't we sell our food to these other restaurants for them to sell out their backdoor third-party delivery? And spent the next couple of months really working on supply chain and marketing materials and operations. And then March of 2020 came and the whole world, got uprooted and it became delivery only, no dining rooms. And we had this hockey stick growth where I think that first 6 months we did about 150 locations. The following year we did close to 500 more. So delivery, in my opinion, isn't going anywhere. Delivery is only going to continue as this generation that's coming up has this need for convenience, this need to just push a button and, instant gratification. And our lifestyles are only becoming more apt to food on the go. So I'm very bullish on delivery. I believe delivery will continue to grow. I believe you'll see more in the space. And every business, every restaurant needs more sales. And if you were to say, in your budget for next year, you would to grow sales 2, 3, 10% year over year. I don't know how you do that without running a second brand, delivery only. Our plan is our hope and our guidance allows for restaurants to do an additional $100,000 to $150,000 a year in top line sales. That's a very large number for restaurants to have to pick up on their own, doing things their own way. So to me, delivery only brands have a home and you will continue to see people play in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also know that Wow Bao, the brand itself, is very versatile. And we've talked about this before as far as there's not much added SKUs needed in the back of house kitchen to have Wow Bao as an extra revenue.
Sure, we have about 14 or 16 food items that are all shipped frozen across the country.
Mhm.
So there's no prep work involved. There's no additional purchasing of food. Uh, there's really nothing you have to do outside of buying those SKUs. And then we're simply steam. So if you can boil water, you can serve our product. And it's made for delivery. I mean, it holds its temperature, holds its heat, flavors stay intact. So it really is made for delivery at ease of execution. And we put a lot of thought into that when we built this program. You know, how can we get operators to turn us on and do us, knowing the headaches that they face on a day-to-day business? And by making our product easy and simple to produce, which is one of the reasons why we've had incredible success in airports, sports stadiums, college campuses, hot food vending machines, because of how the product is made. So it was a natural fit.
That kind of leads me into my next question, which is about those non-traditional locations that Wow Bao so often is in. You mentioned airports, hot food vending machines. What does the future look like for Wow Bao, and why is it so important for you guys to try these different unique concepts?
Yeah, that's a great question. So back in 2009, when I took over the brand, to be very frank, the brand was not performing at the level we needed it to. And in the Lettuce Entertainment environment, it's a privately held company that only has 72 partners. You can imagine everybody wants a piece of that pie to go do something new. So we had to go out and find ways to increase revenue. We had to go out and find ways to increase our footprint without having access to capital. So the non-traditional space has been really fantastic for us. You know, we partner with other operators. They do the cash outlay and building the space and hiring the people. And it allows us to grow our footprint and get our food out on a national scale. And our responsibility is the integrity of the brand and the food and the operations to make sure it's being executed correctly. But it's allowed us to grow at a rate, both from brand name as well as from footprint, that we probably wouldn't have access to if we were doing it a traditional way.
Right, right. And just circling back a bit on the hot food vending machines. If anyone's listening and it's like, what the heck is that? Can you kind of break that down for us?
Yeah, so it's always sort of been a dream of mine to have to have vending machines that were serving hot food. And back in, I think, 2016, we've been trying to find a partner who we could work with. We actually found a great partner out in San Diego and visited them a number of times, and our food worked great in the machines they created. But as a startup, they ran out of funding, and we never got to actually go live with it. And then we found another group based in the Southeast, uh, who do hot food vending machines. And it has been an unbelievable partnership. They have machines that you can either get branded as their own, where they run multiple different foods out of it, including Wow Bao, or you can skin the entire machine Wow Bao only and just serve a number of our different products. And the food comes out, you know, you can order ahead on a device or at the machine. 32 seconds later, the door opens up and out comes steamed hot Wow Bao. It's really fantastic. I think we have about 500 machines are deployed currently in airports, college campuses, manufacturing plants, hotels. So there's a lot of runway of where you can put these items, these machines, as well as, you know, in food oases or on, turnpikes. So we're really excited about the growth of what we can do with this.
Yeah, and thinking about those areas, I'm sure college campuses, for example, must be pretty popular. 24/7 vending machine, getting home from the bars late. So I'm sure those are good areas for that.
Yeah, it's also there's a factor that, aside from the convenience factor and the 365 24/7, you know, never taking a day off, there's also something to it that my campus or my area has this machine that's delivering hot food that your campus doesn't have. You know,
Mhm.
there's something very innovative and attractive about that that makes you want to use it. And when you get the food out of it, and the quality is just like in the restaurants, it really makes you want to come back and return and do it.
Yeah, and that leads me into talking about technology in general. What are some of the things you're looking at, as far as innovation technology? I know that a lot of restaurants are looking at AI or maybe robotics even. Is that something in Wow Bao's future?
No, we look at technology all the time. We've always been a leader in technology. We had self-ordering kiosks back in 2010. We launched an NFT program back in 2022, I think. We
Yes.
partnered with Roblox this year in 24, where we have a game on this in the space. So we're always looking for ways to grow the brand. And the thing about technology is you can't do everything, but you have to do what's right for your consumer and for the message you're trying to deliver for the brand. And we've been very fortunate with the way that our food operates and our consumers interact with us, that we really adhere to all different types of technology. We had back in 2017 and 18, I think we had 3 locations that were fully automated, that zero human interaction, where you would order off of your own phone or device, and your food was delivered through electronic cubbies that were personalized and animated. So we do a lot with technology and look at the forefront. So when you talk about robotics, we've sort of done a degree of that in the past. AI, I think everybody has their eye on, and it's more about how as opposed to when. So
Right.
we're constantly on the lookout for what the right thing is for the brand.
Yeah, and you mentioned the NFT aspect, and that's something I wanted to dive a bit in with you. I know we spoke for a prior article about gamification and the metaverse, and for me at first it was almost over my head even, but diving in, it's like, no, this makes a lot of sense. There are millions and millions of gamers every day, so why not, attract those consumers? And so, do you want to talk a bit about Wow Bao's program with Roblox and just that enter into the metaverse?
Yeah, thank you. So you look, we want to be where the consumer is. And the amount of people who do gaming, and gaming, it means something different than it did when I was growing up. We used to play Atari, and it was literally you played a game. Gaming now in the metaverse is almost a way of life, and it's a communication, it's community, it's social. There's a lot going on in that space, and these aren't people who are playing 15 minutes before dinner time and 20 minutes before bed. These are people who are immersing themselves in a virtual reality for hours on end, for very long periods of time. And we see that as an extension of what we can do. And so we partnered with Roblox, where we created a 3-room scavenger hunt where you would spend time in the Wow Bao environment. There's messaging in there. There's our awards where we won best new concept. We have pictures of the food in there. We have messaging about the brand. There's actually part of the scavenger hunt, you have to interact with a hot food vending machine. And
Yes.
out of the machine pops our CPG grocery product, which is another way of telling people that we have grocery frozen product. When you enter into a hidden speakeasy room in the game that we created, you have the option to put on a bao head. And we created 10,000 of these bao heads. So now people take these heads and they continue in the game and interact outside of our game, but in Roblox as a whole, wearing the bao head. You can win a year worth of bao. You can get a real life coupon to get a free box of bao. There's a lot of in real life versus gaming interaction that's happening. And when you look at about where this could go and what we can do with it, one of the goals that we have is that when you're gaming and you're playing, you can come across one of our hot food vending machines. And imagine as you're in the game, you walk up to it, you interact with it, you order your food, and you continue playing your game. And then the doorbell rings and your food just gets delivered to you. You never have to break the player that you are to go and order food, go get the food, whatever it may be. The food just comes to you. So that's where we're trying to get to eventually. We also have in the Roblox game, we have a portal that takes you from our game to Walmart's game as one of our major partners who sells our product. There's a great way to get in there where, again, you can get access to it. So there's a lot going on in that space that I don't think people understand or realize. But these early days allow you to get in there and you have something that no one else has. You get forgiven if you're doing it incorrectly. You get the chance to improve upon it to make it better. So when the next brand enters a space or the next brand of that, we're going to be on to the next thing and be in front, always leading, never following.
Right. Yeah, that first mover mentality is really something I see a lot with Wow Bao. And I'm very interested to see how the metaverse and the restaurant world continue to combine. I've been seeing it with Wow Bao, I'm seeing it with a few other big brands out there. So certainly interesting. And I can attest, you're in a game, and why go to your phone to order if you can order in the game and earn rewards on both ends? Why not?
Yeah, it's really the world. I say this a lot that technology has never moved faster than it is now, but it'll never move this slow again, right? So
Right. Hmm.
you have to be thinking about, can we do this one day? Because the answer is going to be the ability to do that. What if is going to come a lot faster than 10 years ago that what if would have thought to happen.
Right. And, I think about some of the new, even gaming technology coming out, AR vision and so forth. I can see this really, being another version of this combination here.
Yeah, and as I said, it's a social environment.
Right.
You're playing alongside other people, you have teammates, you're meeting other people's in these spaces. I mean, there's this network of people that are doing this, and this is not a small network. This is an
Right.
incredibly large amount of people. And again, look 3 years from now, the generation that's behind them, or even the generation behind that generation, think about what their lifestyle is going to be like. What, the way they're going to utilize technology, how differently the gaming world is going to be then. Like by getting in the space now, you're helping shape it. And that's something I'm very proud about, that we have a communication line and are identifying with people where other brands are not in that space.
Yeah, that reminds me of something you said when I interviewed you before. You had mentioned on a panel, someone had said we need to revisit the definition of a restaurant. I really love that, and that actually really stuck with me. So can you kind of touch on that a bit and just, what that really means and what you think that means for the future?
Yeah, I have to give credit where credit is due, and I don't want to mispronounce Lee's last name, Lee Kindle of
Hmm.
Moto Pizza in Seattle. I was on a panel
Yes.
with him. He's the one who said that. What people define a restaurant now. I think if you took a baby boomer, a Gen X, a Gen Z, a millennial, and a Gen Alpha, and put them all one on one, not in a room together, and say, how do you define a restaurant? I think you're going to have very different answers, right?
Yeah.
The
Hmm.
baby boomer is going to be somewhere you go to celebrate, maybe, right? And a Gen X might be somewhere you're sharing a meal. But that alpha, and I'm guessing here, I haven't asked them, but that might be just, oh, that's just a way to eat,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Because the interaction that's happening in those restaurants where the baby boomer might expect to be a regular and know the server's name, and the server knows their name, and there's a connection. They've been going there with their children and their family for years and years, and you know versus the diners of today, where it's very transactional and it's more about getting the food to move on with your day. uh, some people might think delivery is a restaurant.
Right.
I
Hmm.
mean, I'm old school, right? A restaurant to me is a social opportunity. It is to have connection. And one thing I say all the time is food is always part of what we do, right? As human beings, we celebrate around food, we commiserate around food. Food is there at the happy times, and they're there at the lowest points in our lives. And the way that people now, because of the convenience factor of being able to order a toothbrush, to come to your house, and that's all you're ordering, and it shows up 20 minutes later. The way people interact with food and with restaurants now is completely different than what it was literally pre-pandemic 4 years ago.
Right. Yeah. And as you mentioned, it continues to evolve. And so, that's what's exciting about my job, is to keep up with the times and how it's innovating so fast in the restaurant industry. So, all right. So we kind of covered a bunch of the big nuggets I wanted to touch on with Wow Bao. Is there anything I didn't mention yet about the brand, or that you're really looking forward to getting into?
I appreciate you giving us the platform to share the story. I'm just very excited about the growth that we have. We've had incredible wins and incredible success in a short period of time. From, you know, 21 years ago, we had one store in Chicago, and now that we have a national footprint with 500, 600, 700 delivery only kitchens and 10,000 grocery stores and a handful of airports and college campuses, we're still looking for ways to grow and break into new categories, whether it's food service, working with airlines and rail, or working with military and higher education. I mean, there's so much opportunity out there. And the when we talk about technology and how it's changing the landscape of how people dine and interact with the brand, technology is also giving us so many more ways to interact with the consumer, to interact with our employees, and to give us that much more opportunity to grow. So I'm really, really excited to see what the next 18 months hold for Wow Bao as we continue to grow it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Geoff. And before I let you go, I'd like to go over to a little fun segment we're doing called Did You Leave Room for Dessert? Where I'm going to ask just a few random questions just to get to know you more outside of the Wow Bao universe. So if you don't mind, Geoff, can you let me
This is
know?
completely unscripted. This was not in the notes that you see by way. All right, let's go.
Let's do it. So, I mean, can you tell our listeners something you like to do for fun when you're not running a huge business?
So some people know it, more people seem to be learning it, but not a lot of people know it. I teach a spin class, and I've been doing that for
Ooh,
about the last 10 or 15 years. So forces
that's
me to
awesome.
exercise, and I get paid to yell at people, so it's good.
Pretty high energy class. Do you guys jam to some music? And
Yeah, I do a lot of classic rock and roll, a lot of 80s music, but it's definitely high energy, and it's really, to be honest, it's a hard workout.
I'm sure I've never done a spin class yet, but I see them and I'm like, I should do that. That seems like a whole body workout right there.
Next podcast, we'll just have us both on bikes, and
Yes,
we'll go the
that's a
distance.
good idea. Okay, and then my next question is, what is the latest movie you watched, and why did you love or hate it?
And that's a hard one, because in this day and age with streaming devices, you don't go to the movies a lot. So when you actually go to a movie, you don't remember the last one you went out and saw.
That's
So
true. That's
probably a
true.
little bit more into series on streaming device. I spend a lot of time on airplanes, going to conferences and moving around. So
Mhm.
I'm in the middle of Ray Donovan, which used to be on Showtime. There's 7 seasons. I'm in the middle of season 5 right now. And I'm pretty hooked on it. So I'm not paying attention to anything else that's out there.
Well, I can echo that. When I'm heading to conferences, I'm streaming as well. So, all right, Geoff. Well, those are just my few fun questions. I think we're at the end of our time. So I just want to thank you so much for being a podcast guest. And I look forward to keeping in touch and seeing what's next for Wow Bao.
Thank you. And I'm a huge fan of what you and the team are doing on Food on Demand. You really have given an incredible voice for our industry about latest technology, off-premise dining, and the conference that you and the team put on every year in May in Vegas is really spectacular. So thank you for everything you're doing to help us be better as an industry.
Thank you so much, Geoff. And I'll be seeing you at the next conference.
Thank you.